This is our Eve project game based on the Eve MMORPG online. We've decided to go for a science based on the game's genre. It's a scientific, sci-fi, futuristic puzzle solving game. The main plot is to send power to the escape pod to escape because an enemy ship has targeted our ship, suspending it for an incoming asteroid. The timer is an estimate how much time the player's got left. But by doing this puzzle right here, we're able to reset the timer by sending power to the ship's propulsion temporarily to move away from the asteroid, but it's not enough. It only lasts for a few seconds. So the main point is to activate the main puzzles that you'll see later on to send power to the escape pod's door and then be able to escape. We've gone through many ideas and inspirations for our game, mainly the Eve MMORPG, but it was other games, especially this part aspect here of the circuitry, like Spider-Man PS4, where they had this sort of similar way of solving situations. Also, in Saints Row 4, they had a hacking element where to send a positive charge from one place to the other. But it was mainly Final Fantasy 15 where we got our inspiration for this sort of stage specifically here, where the character will reach a point where they have to activate certain computer panels to unlock sealed doors to progress through. From the beginning, only one door is open. You'll see us walking through there, and that door is the entrance to the first area. Here, the player will have to look around, see which computer panel is the right one to activate the first puzzle. Our design choice and reasons were to really emulate the feeling of being in a futuristic ship. We went through many disaster styles and choices and evolutions, but this is the one that we've decided. Here, as I was mentioning before, this is our first puzzle. Well, each puzzle will be more difficult than the last, but because we're the ones doing the video, we were able to solve it proper. We wanted to add the feeling of tension and paranoia. You can see here we got a shake mechanic where it's sort of adding suspense. We also made audio sort of emulate the feeling of being in space as well. The background music is very ambient and very serene, which is a parallel contrast to the situation the character is in right now. It was Eric Zimmerman who said in his book Rule of Play that usually visuals and audio are not the key concepts in the game's build, but essentially they could be the main they could be one of the main elements that sort of affects the game progression, or also can be an obstacle or an ally in the game as well. Furthering this point is that later on, if the player has been struggling and they're running out of time, you'll see flashing red lights. The music will change to an emergency signal, and we also added a sort of menacing laugh that's coming from the enemy ship. All these were supposed to add a sort of psychological attack to the player, make them frustrated, make them tense, make them make mistakes, make them think a bit more cautiously. Going back to our timer, we've wanted to add a sort of design loop as well. Make the player always be able to go back to position 0. Because we wanted to add this feeling of sort of being in a maze, sort of being trapped, secluded in a tight spot, and they have to think and really test themselves. That's why a lot of the areas when walking is very claustrophobic. Like, we want to add that feeling of psychological effect. We also want to make our environment more an obstacle. For an example, here you can see in the sort of engine room, the player will have to navigate through these pipes. You can see here that there's little bits of gaps through the pipes. The player will have to look through intensely and see where opening paths and navigate through as well. Speaking of gameplay, we also wanted to add a sort of risk reward to it. As I mentioned before, that completing these puzzles will open a door which will then progress further to the next puzzle. It was actually Tracy Fulton who said that at giving player rewards now and then, it's like giving them feedback. It allows the player to to feel certain satisfaction, to feel that every single thing they're doing, they're being rewarded for it, which then allows them will allow them to play more, to feel the need of playing more, because they know that they'll get rewarded for it. Every action counts, not just playing it to the inevitable end. That each thing they do is actually has a consequence, a real effect. Like I said, I mentioned before that here, see the timer's gone down. You've still got 2 minutes left. Again, if the character decides not to restart then, or if they feel like they got enough time, they retry. Here we've made this game, so we were able to try. We wanted to show you more of the area as much as possible. Again, when I mentioned that I wanted our environment to be sort of an obstacle here, so we added a sort of maze sort of direction here. As we made this game, we were able to transfer it much more easy, but imagine that players will have a sort of harder time on it. As here, every puzzle will sort of be sort of harder than before. Some players might find it easier than others, but it's up to them, really, the player's skill and ingenuity. Also, talking about the visuals, as I mentioned before, that we've gone through many different types of styles, of many evolutions as well, but we're happy with our design choice here. It's very futuristic, very metallic, and also sort of representing the sort of futuristic feeling that we wanted to give our space game. See, now that we've activated all the points, the main door should be open. And see here, you always have a picture of the outside. But as you see, the timer will start to go slowly, and the environment will change. The red lights flashing, the music's change. Also added a sort of sinister laugh with just the enemy ship taunting that you can no way escape. We got the inspiration from one of the Saw franchise games, where the enemy is continuously taunting the player. We wanted to again add more of a psychological effect and pull on the game, but here we managed to complete it with safe and sound. We also wouldn't want the player to forget that they're actually in space. So in certain situations like this and that, we've added windows and stuff, and the player were able to actually see right there the incoming moon asteroid that's in collision with the ship. We wanted to fully create the space opera space game that's heavily adapted from the EVE MMORPG and do it justice. We've taken a lot of consideration and a lot of inspiration from other games to create our masterpiece. Thank you very much. This has been our game.